What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Beats Effects. First and foremost, I just want to give you a humble apology about my absence within the last 3 months. In the last 3.5 months, I have been going through like a life-altering shift with my course, and it's been kind of tough for me. But at the end of the day, I don't look for sympathy. I just keep my chin up through the face of adversity, and we just keep it pushing. Because all year long, we're gonna keep elevating, no matter what lifestyle is in me. But regardless of that, I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you didn't have any questions about, like where I've been, what I've been up to, or anything about my personal life, I will leave my socials downstairs below. You can tap in with me, and we can probably build a connection from there. Regardless of what, y'all already know I hate editing. So let's just get straight into the video, y'all. First thing I want to address is that prior to my absence, right before it occurred, one of the frequent questions that I was getting pretty often was, how exactly do I break down my technical analysis? The questions mainly came from my students, outside of the YouTube platform. And I would always tell them that I'm going to give them a video on it, and that's the reason why I'm not really like giving them individual videos on it, because it's just too many people and it's too much of me saying the same thing over and over. I hate sounding repetitive, so I just told them to wait until the YouTube video drops. So ultimately, this video is going to be one of my strategic strategies about how I break down the market. Basically what I do and what I see before I even think about getting into a trade. So first thing I want to address, before I even think about trading, before I even think about getting into a trade, or so much as barely even looking at the charts, bro, like I always want to go to my articles. You want to find articles, bro. Like that's one thing I always tell my students, one thing I always tell anybody who I'm trying to like get into the realm of trading, of investing. You have to read, bro. Like there's no way you're going to be successful at this if you don't read at all, if you don't keep up to date with the modern world of your currency pair, of your crypto. Whatever you're investing in, you have to keep up to date with it. There's a lot of fake news, there's a lot of fake gurus who just try to feed you false information. Ultimately, that's kind of where I step in, because I do like to be that individual that is essentially like a helping hand. Although I know my platform is pretty small, the goal here is to actually help as much individuals as I can. But the best thing I always tell my students for the jump is I want you to read. Research an article for that pair. Stop trying to cheat the system, stop trying to beat the system, because at the end of the day, the only way you're going to beat the system is you have to separate to elevate. You have to literally put yourself in a realm of, where do I want to be in the next 5 years? Where do I want to be in the next 10 years? Hell, where do I want to be in the next 6 months? If you're not applying yourself right now, by all means, in this video probably is not even for you. So that's that. All I'm really saying, bro, do your research, do your own research, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to do it for you. Next thing I want to talk about is being a retail trader. Ultimately, the downside of being a retail trader, which is essentially what you and I are, you cannot move the market by yourself. There is no way that you can individually move the market. Your name is Elon Musk, Bill Gates, those top 1% of people in the world. There's no way you individually as a person is going to move the chart. So your best bet right now is to follow the trend. The trend is your friend. That is the best thing I've ever learned in my own process of day trading. Now, how do we move the markets as retail traders? Since we can't move it individually, as the people, vast majority of the individuals, we can move it in the direction of our liking. Now that doesn't necessarily always go as planned, because ultimately the banks move the markets, people like presidents, dictators, when they say these mass speeches, that moves the market. Those are the only things that can like individually move the market, you know what I mean? But you alone, myself, I cannot move the market by myself. I need a vast majority of individuals. So that also goes down to what I said. When it comes to reading these charts, I want you to fully understand that you yourself are not gonna move the market. You have to follow the trend. The trend is your friend. Put it right here. So now that I've done talked your ear off about everything else, let's get into these charts and let me just show you how exactly I break them down. So one thing I do want to inform individuals about, perfect example about the trend being your friend. Before I ever even get into a trade, after my articles and everything I read, I then want to identify the current trend that's taking place. So in this case, we are on Euro USD right now. I'm sitting on the 1 week time frame. Would have normally done it on the 1 month time frame, but I already know this knowledge. For somebody who's a beginner like yourself, or maybe the more advanced traders, or anybody, I just highly advise you just start from the month and just follow the trend downward. So I already saw on the monthly standpoint, we were projected to go down. For time purposes and all these other lines down here, these lines represent stuff that's going on currently. I wanted to make the screen blank just so you guys can get a better visual of what I'm trying to talk about. Overall, if the month is going down, then most likely the week is going down. What we are now looking for is bearish opportunities. So to rapidly summarize what I mean by bearish opportunities, we have these things called bearish and bullish trends. The market behind me is currently on a downward trend. One way I learned the difference between bears and bulls, when I was first starting, I had to do animations myself. Basically, when I would think of a bear, I would go like this. A bear kind of indicates the claws are facing down, almost indicating, the market is going down. Now bulls is basically when the market is going up, or even a better one right here, when the market is just shooting up. A bull That's how I think of it. And these are just like little animations that I did just to help me not get the two mixed up, so I'm not selling when I mean to buy or I'm buying when I mean to sell. You know what I mean? Just simple stuff like that. It's nothing rocket science. Like I said, let's just assume hypothetically that the month is going down. So if the month is going down, what are we looking for? We're looking for bearish opportunities. Now, when I say we're looking for bearish opportunities, that means we're basically looking for some dramatic ass dropping points. Take this perfect bearish trend, for example. I'm gonna zoom in right now. When I say zoom in, this essentially indicates that within this area right here, I'm now gonna go from the weekly time frame to the daily time frame. And this is essentially how it's going to get the ball rolling into how I start falling into my swing trades and my scalp trades. I'll save those for like another video, but right now I just want you to understand how I break it down. So essentially what we're gonna do to help you see it at a better perspective, what we saw a dramatic bearish trend. With this dramatic bearish trend, this obviously lets us know that the market is going to have bearish opportunities for the daily, the 4 hour, definitely, essentially for the 5 minute. What I want you guys to understand is that when you're following the trend, there's always a trend within a trend. I'm gonna say that again. There is a trend within a trend. What this means, if I started on the weekly, you saw one big bearish move that took place within that week. Within the week, there is a day. Within the days, there are hours. Within the hours, there are minutes. And it goes on and so forth. So in this case, we're seeing, we started on the week, we see that we have bearish opportunities. So now we transition to the daily. So now that I've zoomed in on the daily, you can now see that the charts probably do look a little more different. What I do from this point on is I now try to identify supply and demand. Now I do want to explain to you guys the benefits of supply and demand and how it's really benefited my trading journey. It almost makes trades kind of spot on to my naked eye because I learned how to do supply and demand. But that video is for another day, because if I talk about too much in one video, you're gonna not be able to stick with it. I want to make this as simple as possible as I can for you guys. But what we can see now is that we have bearish opportunity. Ultimately, this is going to be, you can see on the daily time frame that we have bearish opportunity. Also, this is kind of going to be the point where I start to look for lower lows and lower highs. Now, what are lower lows and what are lower highs? I'm going to explain this rapidly. I'll probably do another video on this, but lower lows and higher highs is typically usually the peak on where the market had trouble breaking through. This information really ties into our supply and demand. It really ties into a support and resistance, and it kind of all connects to everything, almost like a circle of life type of thing. You gotta connect one thing to connect to other. And I hope you follow me when I say that. But to give you a better visual, I have my handy dandy whiteboard that I'm gonna use as a guide to help you. So what we're noticing in this market structure is that these major dropping points, essentially what we call lower lows and lower highs. Take this chart for example. You see how I made this chart bullish, right? Now every time the market chooses to go bearish, what goes down always has to come back up. So what we're gonna notice is after this first move took place, it found some level of resistance. It immediately broke through this line of structure. Now, after the market is having continuation in its line of trend, as I said, what goes down has to come back up. Eventually, at some point, price is going to find a support system. This is where we get into support and resistance. I'm gonna do a few more videos on that later, but right now, it builds a support system. So now that price bounced off of this support system, what it's now going to do is going to retest this current resist system because it already broke through. However, this is a major low. So after price tried to come up off of this support line and tried to retest this resistance, this major low, you can see it on the board, you can see it in real life. Price is consistently rejecting off of these resistance points, ultimately creating lower lows in the time. As you can see, after price rejected off of our resistance, it then broke past that support line, initially involving continuation for the bears until we reached a new support line. But now after price meets its new support line, it has to retest every time. You can see it on the board. You can see it in real time. So after price bounced off of this support line and is then retest our new resistance, which is then this new low, price is then gonna reject off of that new resistance line. And what we wanna do is just be patient to see if it's going to break that line. Now, it's not always gonna break that line. A lot of times it's just gonna involve a pattern and it might break through and start a new trend. For time purposes, hypothetically, we're just gonna assume it rejects off of our resistance line, thus indicating continuation. And basically what we do from this point on, starting from the daily, if you're a beginner, you might want to start from the weekly or monthly, and then you just want to kind of follow that process the whole time down, depending on how you're looking to trade, whether that be scalping, whether that be swinging, whether that just be intraday trading, any type of way. You have to figure out what works for you, because not every trader is going to be the same. Not everything works for everybody. You have to figure out your code, what works for you. So unfortunately, my trading view is not letting me go this far back in time for my 4 hour and my 1 hour. So I think I'm just gonna conclude the video right now. And I think I gave you a pretty hefty amount of information for today just to soak in. Definitely there's nothing wrong with it. Ideally, I really just wanted you to get just a visual of how price action works and how technical analysis works and how breaking these charts down. It's not the hardest thing in the world if you're persistent and you actually put your mind to it. Because there's a whole lot more to my technical analysis and even much bigger formula that summarizes my decisions to even go into these trades. So don't think I just look at this and I just take action. Because truth and reality, I got other indicators that I can tell y'all about, but y'all ain't even ready for that type of conversation. But right now, we're gonna take it slow. We're going to learn to grow one step at a time. And ultimately, like I said, it is within my best interest while I do this little platform of mine to help as much individuals as I can. So I hope the video that you watched today, you gained some type of knowledge. Feel free to give me any positive feedback or any constructive criticism that I could have done better on. Help you understand it more. Really want to help y'all succeed. With all that being said, that's gonna conclude the video for today. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button because I know you just be watching my videos and you don't really even be pressing it for real. Do your articles, do your research, do your technical analysis, and practice, practice, practice. With all that being said, y'all stay up, FX gang.